All right, Caesar, we are live. How are
Nice.
you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. It's super late for you, or is it? I mean, what? Where are you? Well, let's back up.
Mhm.
Um, would you mind introducing yourself? Where are you dialing in from? And what time is it over there?
Right now it is 6 o'clock, and I am in Riverside, California.
Oh, great. Okay, so it's
Yeah.
not too late, but I'm sure there's a few people joining us maybe from the East Coast, and it's a little bit later. Hope everyone has a nice glass of wine or are relaxing. It's the beginning of the weekend. I was wondering myself if it was allowed to have a glass of wine on YouTube, or so I didn't. I don't know if it's if it passed the etiquette or not.
You know
But
what's
yeah.
funny is that I was gonna do the exact same thing, but I didn't know if it was good etiquette. I'm not even gonna bring it up.
Ah, damn, we should have talked about it earlier. Maybe we should have both done it. So, hey, thank you, Caesar, for joining us. You've been an instructor with us for about 2 years now, and
Yeah.
it's been wonderful. We're going to talk about your experience at New Camp. We're going to talk about how you got there. We're going to go back way in history, your first steps in coding, I will say, and how you got into coding yourself. First, let me kind of give everyone an idea of what we're doing right here. We are live on YouTube as well as Facebook and LinkedIn at the same time. We typically do those shows around 3 p.m. And so hopefully it's not too late for everyone. We are seeing people asking you questions online, which is great. So Michael right now, Miguel, I see your questions on LinkedIn. Thank you for asking that. We're going to answer any questions that are coming here. Another thing you should know if you're joining this stream is you can actually join Caesar and myself live. And the way you do that is you follow this link that is showing right here. You can join using your phone. It works totally right. So url.newcamp.co/dial-in. And like in the name, you're going to dial in. So you're going to join us. We're going to bring you onto the floor, and you can ask any question that you want to Caesar or myself. So don't hesitate to do that. It's quite fun. Um, all right. And so now, without further ado, and hello, I go from Seattle. Yeah, we're from here. I'm from here as well. Puman from Oakland, so California in the house. Um, so Caesar,
Yeah.
you've been in the industry for how long now?
In the actual industry, I want to say, man, almost 2, 3 years now. Yeah.
So it's pretty recent, actually.
It's it's been pretty recent, but I've my interest in it has it's been more than that for sure. Um, whether it was like reading books or YouTube videos or any other courses.
Uh,
Yeah, I've been studying my butt off to get in the industry,
so your first dev job, it's like 3 years ago, and was it with when was that? Is it when you joined Fleetwood Windows and Doors, or was it before?
Actually, I think that my like when well, I did some freelance work before I did that, to
Yeah.
try and open up as many doors as I could along the way to eventually end up working at a place like Fleetwood Windows and Doors. But I mean, it depends on. I've been in the industry, but I don't think I could have depended my salary or
Yeah.
where the food was coming from until I got hired as a full time web developer.
Gotcha. That makes
Yeah.
sense. So let's, and as I said, you've been with us as an instructor for 2 years. Students love you. I was looking at your LinkedIn profile, and it's amazing to see how much students have actually provided, feedback on you. It's actually very rare, and you're doing it pretty well. I mean, I see Patrick here, who just
Yeah.
graduated from the backend with Python. I see Priscilla, Santiago. So you have a ton of really positive feedback from your students. Um, Before we get there, what I would love to ask you is, how did it start for you? I mean, you made it, but my understanding is also of self-taught. So you didn't go. I mean, you didn't enter the industry the I would say the traditional way with the computer science degree and etc.
Right.
So when did it start for you? When did, coding become a thing that you were interested in for you? And can you talk about it a little?
Yeah, it depends how far back you want to go back.
Oh, very
But
far. Let's bring all the memories, from childhood if you want.
so and I'm gonna start there, but I swear it's not gonna be too long. So before when I was young, my aunt used to give me rides to school, and she's passed away since then. But one like we were talking about what I want to do when I grow up. She said, there's a computers are going to be really big, and I think you'd be really good at it. That's what she said to me, and I was like, yeah, I mean, that sounds like a good career, but I bet you need a lot of math.
Yeah.
There's a ton of like college you have to go through. So it didn't really seem like an option for me at the time, even then. And I remember in the classroom, they were projecting that people who were a computer scientist, somebody who specialized in computers, would earn a salary of like 100K. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. But I bet you need a lot of math. I bet you
Yeah.
need a lot of schooling. So again, it almost seemed like I paid attention to, and now that I'm older and I'm doing what I'm doing, it seems like, man, it couldn't be further from the truth. I could have just work really hard, and eventually you'll
Yeah.
end up where you want to be. But so that was like my childhood, and then you know years passed. I literally did almost like web development was the last thing on my mind, and then I turned like 24 and 25, and again it was just that calling of like what was um like it just interested me. I don't know what it is. You
Yeah.
just have those things that kind of pull you in. So when I moved out of my parents' house, me and my wife, we were just at an apartment, and it was just this terrible apartment. It was this one bedroom. We had a child. And I was like, I can't be working manufacturing for the rest of my life. Like
Mm.
I was doing quality assurance, but it was really boring to me. I
Yeah.
couldn't see myself like 20, 30 years down the line. Like, is this really all that there's going to be? So, I still didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. But I remember in that apartment, I actually got a book of C++, and I created this simple like insult generator on the command line.
You
Yeah.
started with C++? Plus plus?
Yeah, yeah.
Did you
It was
realize at the time how insane it was?
it was a pretty simple like program. It just ran, and I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And I showed it to my wife, but to make that I didn't know how to transfer those skills into like something that you'd see on the screen or like a game,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
that's pretty raw. I mean, yeah, C++. Plus plus. I mean, there's a beauty to it of, starting, object-oriented programming and
Yeah.
building your objects, but then it gets so complicated so fast, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, and then you read into documentation, and as a self-taught person, you get into these rabbit holes. Like, you don't
Yeah.
really know what's important and what you can like kind of maybe learn later on. So I remember slightly glancing at like JavaScript, and it came along with like one of the books and stuff. And I remember just asking myself, oh man, how much is JavaScript going to cost? Or how, how much is Java going to cost? Like, I can't afford this right now, let alone at the time I didn't know that it was completely free. But
Yeah.
it's very rare, and I think this is one of the things that really pulled me into this industry. The fact that you could have such life-changing tools
Yeah.
and just download them onto your computer, and you're good.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're good.
And it's all
There's
free. Yeah.
no subscription service.
Yeah.
There's no you just I think
Yeah.
that's really what was like, this is amazing. Now,
Pause
granted,
that.
like, yeah,
Pause
go ahead.
that thought. So because we have Ryan who's going to join us. Ryan, if you're hearing us right now, switch on your camera if you don't mind, and we'll actually make a pause and we'll bring you onto the floor and you'll be able to ask your questions. So Ryan is in queue right now. I also want to say hi real quick to Alexandra, who really thinks we should have a glass of wine. I don't know how we're going to pull that off though now. Jeremy from Calgary, and someone from your hometown. I mean, Luz Gomez from Riverside as well.
That's definitely not my wife.
And Teresa, he's here as well. Um, so yeah, I mean, this is crazy, right? Everything is free. I mean, of course, you have to have, I mean, a computer and an internet connection. What's very interesting and kind of funny in a way from our standpoint. When we do applications in states where we want to be able to allow to teach, they're going to ask you, okay, what is the breakdown of your education? How much is it going to cost? And then they give you examples. Okay, how much are the books going to cost? How much
Yeah.
are the equipment is going to cost? How much are the additional fees going to cost? And so they expect, as a coding bootcamp, that you're going to have all that additional fees that you will see in traditional education.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, no, you just you. I mean, the student has to have a laptop or computer and
Yeah.
then internet connection, and it's all good. There's nothing additional, like
Yeah.
just nothing. Visual Studio is free. Everything is free, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is pretty amazing. So you were looking into JavaScript, and so how did you start actually? How did you start learning JavaScript then? What was
S-
it for you?
At that point, a few years even went after that, I got into I worked at a musical place for a while, and I remember somebody showing me VBA. At the time I was doing some admin work, and this person just completely reduced my job from like 2 hours to like minutes,
Oh, yeah,
right? Yeah. So like it was copy and paste, dynamic pivot tables, all that good stuff. And I remember that day, or at least throughout the week, I was like, wow, this is really cool. And, as I've explained before, this was an area that really interested me. And then I looked up a video on YouTube. I looked up YouTube because I was thinking maybe I should go back to college and study this stuff, go back to
yeah.
university. But the thing is that I was already 20 grand in debt. I didn't want to take out another 20 grand to go for a bachelor's or, much more to get a master's. So I went into YouTube and I looked up and I saw this video from Quincy Larson, and I was like, wow, I delved into that world for a little bit, into Free Code Camp, and I was really trying to make this my career. I was really trying to change my whole life with a child and a
Yeah.
wife, and I just put everything into it. I made up my own meetups at the time. I
Oh, you
tried
created your own meetup. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. I created my own meetups here before. This is before coronavirus, so we were able to do that. It was going great for a while, until coronavirus happened. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I put 110% into getting people who are interested in doing what I love to do. Meeting them, picking their brains, and it. I don't know, man. It's been a real journey
You
for me.
had that group spirit already. You had that kind of leadership spirit in creating your own meetup, and that's going to get you noticed, right? Automatically when you're in front of a hiring manager, and that person asks you, okay, tell me about your background. What did you do? Those are elements that go beyond just, hey, I know how to code, but really building a meetup, bringing people together. That
Yeah,
matters. That matters a lot. So, and you studied with Free Code Camp, right? You
yeah,
said,
yeah.
and how long do you think you stayed with it? Like how much time did you spend with Free Code Camp? And did you at any point in time join a coding boot camp, or was it just really 100% self-taught?
So it was a free code camp for a while until I think I got to the data visualization part. They have Python now,
Mhm.
but it wasn't available when I took the certificates. But so that was a great thing, and and this is why if I would have gone to a coding boot camp first, this would have definitely narrowed the amount of time. And I don't think a lot of
Yeah,
people, especially this is what I quote Eckhart Tolle a lot, is it depends on your life situation, right? Like in my life situation, I was okay with, because it took me years to get that full-time job. It took
yeah.
me quite a few, maybe it took me a year or at least a lot of months to get a freelance gig, let alone a full-time job. But so at one point I was like, man, I don't think my resume is getting looked at. And I don't think my resume is getting looked at. So I was like, man, maybe I should start considering boot camps, um, to get that certificate, or maybe to kind of validate my skills a little bit more. But uh, so, but I actually ended up getting this full time web development job right before I graduated from Udacity.
Yeah, I
So I
got you.
already had all the
Yeah.
skills And honestly, during the interview, I don't even think they cared. They definitely didn't show like they cared.
Well,
Yeah,
I think you did something extremely smart. When I look at your journey on LinkedIn. And by the way, Ryan, I'm gonna finish that line of questions, and then we'll get to you, Ryan, and we'll bring you onto the floor. But you did something really smart, which is instead of joining a coding bootcamp as a student, you joined a coding bootcamp as an instructor.
yeah,
And I know you've taught at several coding bootcamps, but I guess you really accumulated enough knowledge and enough experience on your own
yeah,
to be comfortable enough teaching others.
yeah,
And that also matters a lot. I mean, you may not, have the computer science degree, you may not have the coding bootcamp credential, but the minute you feel comfortable enough to teach others,
yeah,
you've already accomplished something. You've actually like achieved that milestone. And I used to say the difference between a junior developer and a senior developer is the senior developer is teaching the junior developer. So the minute
yeah,
you feel like you can stop teaching,
yeah,
you're starting to get there. And that, I mean, obviously, instead of paying the coding bootcamp, you got paid, which
yeah,
probably helped. And that really built, right? That built your profile, your background. And I mean, do you want to actually, maybe I'm speaking too much on your
yeah.
behalf, but you mind actually describing to us how you went from self-taught to your first, instructor position or TA position?
Yeah, no, I started off as a teaching assistant to a coding boot camp that was local here. They were barely starting to kind of open up their business here.
Oh, I
And
see.
yeah, yeah. So they were looking at quite a few teaching assistants and instructors. And obviously at the time I wasn't confident enough to be an instructor.
Yeah.
But yeah, just all the months that and the years, all the previous experience that I had before, just trying to flesh out my skills. And I actually knew someone from those free code camp meetups that we created who is already a teaching assistant there.
Oh, I
So
see.
we were like saying, what kind of things do they require, what skills do I need, what's the interview process like. And from then on, believe it or not, I think everybody in that group, that code camp group that we created, everyone ended up getting the job. So
But that's what I mean. This is a great example. That's why networking is so important.
yeah, exactly,
Right?
I
That's
know.
how you get it. I mean,
Like,
that's a great point. I mean, you created the group. You kind of saw other people doing, having success with teaching, and then you got into the position. So hey, let's pause here. Let's actually have Ryan join us.
mhm.
Ryan, I'm going to add you to the stream. Hello, Ryan. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. Thanks for joining us. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm signed up for the backend SQL Python class starting in March.
Oh, great. Okay.
So I mean, I guess do you want me to go through like my whole life history and work history and all that stuff?
Um,
Or
uh, Maybe if you have a question, you can start with that. And if you want to actually add some context to your question with your background, that'd be helpful as well.
okay, I didn't really have any question. I'm just here to hang out and hear what's going on.
Oh, cool. Well,
I,
you're
I
welcome
appreciate
to
you guys
hang out
putting me
on
on.
that.
I'm just here to listen and watch.
So no, that's perfectly okay. Typically, when you join using that link, that's an opportunity to kind of have a conversation and ask questions. So Caesar, he's here. He may actually be your instructor. We'll see how that goes. But I know, Caesar, you've recently started to teach Python and SQL.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, go for it, Ryan. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and yeah, and some lessons maybe from your path as well.
Sure. So I started life as a creative person, art and music, and I didn't really get into tech until much, much later. I started taking college classes, and I just kind of stumbled upon a computer science class, and I was like, okay, this makes sense. I played around with building some computers back in the day, just like because I wanted to do the cool art and video stuff on the computers. It was just a tool, I didn't really care about the tech side of it. But I realized I had some of those skills, so I was like, I've always liked computers. Maybe computer science would be good. So I just kind of continued down that path, but I was focused more on the networking, system administration, that side of things. So that's what I've been doing since probably early 2015. I started like in the public school system, uh, Then I worked at Stanford University. I was in the Bay Area for many years, so I worked at Stanford University over there. I did contracting work at Google and Facebook, and
Oh, you're pretty much into the industry already. That's pretty cool.
Right, but I'm not that. I know a little bit of coding. I do like just some basic scripting and stuff, but I need to brush up on my SQL skills, my coding skills. I want to get more into DevOps, Kubernetes, automation, all that fun stuff, APIs. So yeah, I'm excited.
That's great. That's great. So what are you doing right now to prepare for that? Have you learned online a little bit? Have you done some projects?
I mean, I know a little bit of SQL, just kind of the bare minimum. So I have taken this, I graduated from, I got my AS degree in computer science. So I've done a little bit of coding, but it was like just like the basic level coding in like assembly, C, C++, Java, Python. But I never really got in deep into any of them. So like if I do a coding interview, I'm not very fast, I'm not very good, I'm probably going to fail it,
But you know that you like it. I mean, from the sound of it, you've really touched on many different areas that gives you enough confidence that it's the career for you. So that's already great. There's a lot of people who are joining, and they're still not sure or unclear if that's something they're gonna like. And you seem to be very far beyond that point. You like it. You just need the credential and then enough background or a good profile and a good project to get your first job.
Right, more knowledge, more practice.
Yeah. So thank you for joining, Ryan. I wish you good luck. I'm looking forward to seeing you with Caesar in March then.
Yeah, I'll see you soon.
Maybe you'll be in Caesar's class. We'll see. Take care.
That'd be cool. Thank you.
All right, that was cool. Thanks for joining, Ryan. So let's look at some of the questions that we have online as well. I think I saw one. You can okay. So what does it say? Not for this week, but maybe next week. We'll see. Oh, it will be a restricted mode if we do that. If we have a glass of wine, really? That's weird. So the question for you, Caesar, is what was the? I think it was right. What was the title of your own meetup?
So the title of my meetup was Free Code Camp Riverside. I think you could still find it on Facebook, but it's filled with spam at this point. I don't think anybody maintains it. But one that is really active right now, especially if you're in the Inland Empire, is IESD, Inland Empire Software Development Group. If you look that up, they're definitely active. I ask questions there all the time. There's a bunch of great people there. And knowing that they're just all close to me is better.
And that's in Riverside as well, that one.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Cool.
You can find it on Slack and on meetup.com if you want to find links to the Discord.
Sounds good. Rocky is asking, which laptop do you recommend for beginners like me who are going to learn full stack web development?
What do you think?
I'll go for it. We get that question quite often. You want a decent laptop, meaning a decent CPU, so not the least expensive CPU. So Intel i5 or equivalent with AMD. You want to have minimum of 8 gig of RAM, and then you want to have an SSD hard drive. You really want a hard drive that's gonna go fast. And that should take you. That should actually be just okay. If it's a Mac, I'm not a Mac guy, but I guess anything decent. M1 work better now, I guess. What are you using, Caesar? Are you using PC or Mac?
Okay, I'm using a Mac, and that's where we're different. I absolutely recommend a Mac. If anybody asks me this question, I'm like, oh no, go with the Mac. I've tried Windows, I've tried Linux, and I've tried Mac, and I went back to Mac.
Well, I can't do that, right? I've spent 18 years at Microsoft. I just can't talk about Mac. Even my phone, I had to go with a Samsung, an Android phone because I just can't have Apple. I don't know why. It's kind of it's the thing.
I'm the complete opposite. I know that's an ecosystem and it's hard to break away, but as an instructor and just as a developer, like I was trying to install this NeoVim plugins, bam, they just worked on my computer. They just,
All right. So we have another question from Michael. I see your post on Haskell Code on LinkedIn. I missed that one. How do you
Yeah.
manage your full-time job, family, and continuous learning? That's a really good one. And I will actually extend that question to ask you, while you were self-taught, right? When you said you put, 110% into it, how do you manage that? You had a family, you had a wife, you still, I mean, a child. How do you really make it work?
This isn't gonna sound fun. And the reason why is because I stayed up late a lot of nights. So like for right now, when you see that Haskell code, I'm trying to learn just functional programming just because it's they say that it's a different way to think about problems. But so before, even with like new camp, when I'm getting ready to teach any class, even though I've done it before, like this Friday, like today, I'm gonna be up a little bit later just to kind of go over the slides, make sure all my bases are covered. Trying to see if like I can expand on questions that I've had before. And the thing is that my kids, it's I wait until my kids fall asleep a lot of
Yeah.
the time,
Wow.
and then I'll continue and do that. But the thing is that I love it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I've I want to learn Haskell out of my own prerogative. Like that's my goal, to just have a better understanding of programming. So I do try and dedicate time, specific blocks during the day, because I see people like you, Ludo, right? Who before this conversation started, I was telling Ludo, that's amazing that you're the CEO, and I see him on Slack. I see him on LinkedIn. He's answering students' questions. He's just being helpful. And any other job that I've had before, I've never had this one-on-one with the CEO before. So, and I imagine you as well dedicate certain times to do certain things.
Yeah.
So for me, it's I dedicate like 5 to 6. I'll go to the gym. 7 to 8. I'll see if like I'll have maybe like a Slack messages. If I don't, spend time with the kids. If I'm spending time with my kids, phones off, no Slack messages, directly to them. That's the goal most of the time. Whether it happens all the time,
You're
that's
better than me. You're better than me at that. For me, it's a little bit of all encompassing and an obsession.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
on all the time, and yeah, and I allow myself to be distracted and interrupted, just to engage in a conversation. Um, but I love it as well. That's um, a lot of people talk about work-life balance, and when I was at Microsoft, it was a big deal talking about that. And there was something that was said is work-life balance, and how you manage that is really personal. It's how you feel good about it, and I would love actually to approach it the way you are,
Yeah.
but I just can't. That's not how I handle those things. So, but it's pretty cool to hear that you are able to create those boundaries, and that you really are, well, that you probably have a very supportive environment as well that allows you to do that, right?
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely, a hundred
so
percent. Yeah, 100%. But yeah, I just dedicate a certain amount of time. I mean, the thing is, I think it was Michael who asked that question. Is that I know it's going to take longer than a day. I'm not going to spend 8 hours on Haskell code. I'm not going to
yeah,
spend 3 hours on Haskell code. I'm going to spend 1 hour, find out one thing that I learned that day, and call that a win.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's huge as well. It reminded me of a chat I just had with Don that I just saw here. Don, I'm going to take your question right next. We were talking about how important it was to like coding, to really, and it's the difference between being passionate about coding and actually liking the experience of learning to code.
Yeah.
And we were talking about it in the context of saying you have to like learning to code to become a developer.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is also true. You also need to like it, because it's not going to stop when you get your first job.
Yeah.
You're always going to need to learn, or you may risk 10 years later being kind of out of date,
Yeah.
and be beyond the expectations of the job. So you'll always need to find an interest in learning to code, and that's going to be an important drive. So I saw that Don is with us. Thank you for being here. And Don, as a developer for you, as a question for you, Caesar, have you considered suggesting a curriculum piece that lets your students set up an environment with something like Code Anywhere and be able to use a Chromebook for New Camp?
I haven't. I haven't considered, just because the environment that's set up for most students all require VS Code. It's like
Yeah.
a certain, and all the classes that we teach have a certain environment set up for them. So to shy away. Like, uh, kind of as an aside, I guess, I play around with Neovin, but I would never show it off when I'm instructing. Right? It'll just cause more questions than anything.
So I think a Chromebook will work in some classes, like it will definitely work, in the HTML class. Bootstrap,
Yeah.
I think you probably we're going to be able to make it work for React. I think React Native is going to be the big, I mean, you have to run an emulator and all that stuff, and that's going to be a
Yeah.
pain. I don't know how you will make it work there. Node.js, MongoDB, that may start to be a challenge. When you start to want to run a MongoDB server, that may be a trick. But yeah, I mean, we had someone also have a challenge with Linux with our Python bootcamp.
Yeah.
Like our operating our lessons right now for Python, and you may have experienced that. Our lessons are really wired for either Mac or PC.
Right.
And I think if you had a Linux computer, you were pretty much out of luck because some of the stuff didn't work. And so, I mean, it's always interesting to kind of expand, the curriculum to make it more compatible, I would say, with different devices or operating systems.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I wouldn't recommend going with the Chromebook.
Yeah.
Because as Ludo, as you're just explaining, you might encounter some of these issues, but if you had a Microsoft or a Microsoft computer or a MacBook, it's not a question of maybe you'll have issues, but New Camp, all the instructors there have some sort of experience with either Chromebook or Microsoft for the most part.
Yeah.
So I think you're better off.
The argument in favor of Chromebook is obviously, I mean, first, some students ask because they already have one.
Yeah.
And
right.
they don't necessarily have the opportunity to, find another one, find a PC. There's a question of cost. That's very true.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, and we have another question for you from iGo. Question for Caesar: what are the top three characteristics that you see in UCAM graduates that become successful in tech? Oh, that's a great question.
I think the three characteristics you see, the three characteristics, I don't know three off the top of my head, but I can tell you one that is consistent probably throughout life, but for sure with web development is it really just takes dedication. That's such a generic answer, right? But Patrick Steele, if you ever listen to this or if you're on here, he just graduated the
Python, and he graduated with honors, and he's our first honor graduate for the Python curriculum.
Thank you, Ludo.
Yeah, you can check out he has a project on YouTube right now.
Yeah. So when he was a student in the class, he's always asking me questions on Slack about his project. I don't want to go back and he was there was a lot of stuff going on in his life, and not once did I ever see him miss an assignment.
Yeah.
He was just always consistently working on his side project, developing his skills aside from the curriculum that was kind of like walking him through it. He tried to apply it into a real life situation with a pet adoption place. But the point is that he had all these situations happening in his life, and not once did he get deterred. He finished it, and now, I mean, just the other day, as Ludo mentioned, he graduated with honors.
Yeah, he has a very interesting and inspiring life story as well that he shared with us. It'll be great to have him on the show, actually. All right, I don't know how to kick or to. Oh, I can do it. Like, feels like there's a spammy sister 19 something here. I'll let it slide for now. All right. So, what else? Essentially, apps like that set up those kinds of environments similar to how React simplifies this React setup. Yeah, that would be actually a great way to bring in more people that really can't afford either a Mac or a PC or have a Chromebook.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's take another question, and then we'll get back to you and your background and your and especially what you've done as an instructor. How many projects will qualify for an employer to take a junior programmer seriously, and how advanced do they need to be?
In my experience, they don't need to be advanced at all. But I guess that is, what is your question? Like, what is your definition of advanced?
Mm-hmm.
But to give you kind of some context, in the interview process for the latest job that I have, I created an app for a quality assurance place for my previous employer.
Yeah.
Right. And I showed it up and they didn't want it. So I showed it off here. And this is something that they were looking for. So does it need to be advanced? Not really. It was really just a filtering of like status codes. And it would just give you a description and a picture of what that status code related to, so they could see the quality defect on that product. It's not, maybe it sounds difficult, but it's really not that difficult to implement. So it doesn't need to be Facebook if that's what you're asking, but it more than anything else, more than a certificate, more than a college degree, more than a master's, what I think matters most and what's going to get you noticed even more is having completed projects ready. In case you're in the situation like where I was, or many other people were, is showing off your project, something that you've actually done that you could explain, maybe what you could explain you could do better if you had more time to work on it. It's showing off the projects.
Yeah, and being able to talk about it, showing off the project, being able to talk about it. I'll give you additional tips from my own standpoint. First, I'll say there's a few simple things that can be done that already creates an impression. Like, have a README file that really spends the time describing the project, how to install it, how to actually make it run. Like, think about it as if you were going to deploy that to NPM, right? What is the setup process? Like, what do I need to do, NPM, whatever, and kind of document a little bit of it. That's already, if a junior developer does that, I'm going to be like, huh, that's nice. I will always go into the code, and there's a few things that are going to trip me and make me rethink the quality of the developer. One is how that person handles arrays. That's, I feel like, when you start to learn to code, what you're going to do to, cycle through an array is you're going to do index 0, index 1, index 2. You're going to write those, right? Because you're not yet familiar with the, how do you loop through an array? And so you'll see that in the code. If I see that in the code when you've graduated and you're looking for a job, I'm like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then I want to see some advanced, map, some arrow functions. If you have that in your code, I'm going to be like, okay, you kind of know what you're doing. And these are not hard. These are kind of easy places to get tripped, and you don't want that. And there's a few other things like, I mean, if you're using too much the DOM for things that are part of the framework, like, for example, the other day I saw someone opening a new URL in the React app using windows.location.href.
Oh,
right?
okay. Yeah.
And forgetting about the whole navigation part, and and all of a sudden you have that, you're like, what is that? And so there's a few things to be taken seriously. You really want to make sure that your code is clean, documented, and that you haven't fell into those traps. Those traps of not going through the array the right way, or forgetting about using the framework the way it's supposed to be used, and things like that.
Yeah.
So let's go
just
back to you.
Just to jump on to what you're saying about cleaning up your code, having a humongous function, just having 1,000 lines, and it's all just into one function. That's never a good thing.
I do that sometimes, though.
Oh, you do?
Cron functions. When you have to do something in batch.
Okay.
That could be big. Yeah. But I hear you.
Yeah.
I'll still be negative points. So let's get back to you. So you're self-taught. You were able to stay committed, and you've learned a ton.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're very smart in how you're approaching, getting into the industry. You're creating a meetup. You're not just going to a meetup. You're creating your own meetup.
Yeah.
You're getting to know people that, are instructors or TAs, and then you join as a TA. Can you go back? I mean, first, how was it for you to get that first TA job? How was the interview? I mean, were you challenged? Like, would you recommend that to a student? Is that a good first way of getting into the industry, or?
It worked for me. Is it a good? Is it a good first way? It depends on your life situation. Again, it's one of those
Yeah,
things. Like there was a lot of time because I didn't have those certificates from a boot camp or I didn't go to college that I probably could have escaped and started looking for a job 3 months if I would have gotten to like new camp, after I graduated, and it would have just shortened that lifespan a lot more because I more than likely got stuck in rabbit holes that I didn't need to go down to. Um, so it worked out for me because that's what I wanted to achieve. I wanted to not go back to college and again take out a loan. It
yeah.
yeah, the interview process, much like how I felt before this interview started or this podcast started, you get
This is not an
nervous.
interview.
Yeah. You get nervous.
Yeah.
I could still feel the nerves in me. But I forget what book I read, but I'm sure you've heard this quote before that if you're not scared or if you're not at least nervous, it's time to be. You're
Yeah.
not
You
taking
don't care
action.
enough or something. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, exactly. You don't
Yeah.
care enough about something. And that's I don't, I've worked at New Camp for 2 years now, and I've done several. I teach class every month, and every Saturday, regardless if it's the first week or the last week, I still get extremely nervous.
Oh,
I
you have the nerve.
don't
You
know
still have the
why.
nerve. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
um,
It is tough. It is tough. I mean, you're in front of 12 people that you don't know. They don't know you.
yeah,
I remember having those nerves as well.
yeah.
And I know, is it better or worse when it's online versus in person when you do the workshops?
I feel like it's better online for me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
although I was fully committed. Well, I think when I started New Camp again, COVID was like starting to happen, so they moved
Yeah.
everything
I
online for
think
the moment.
I looked it up. You started in December 2020, I think, something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
So you may have had. And were we in person in Riverside? I can't recall. I don't think. Maybe we were. Anyway,
yeah. I
we have
remember.
Alex who's waiting for us to bring you on the floor. So Alex, if you're ready, we're going to bring you on. And please introduce yourself. And if you have a question, ask your question. Hey, Alex, how
Well,
you
hi,
doing?
Mr. Ludo. Hi, Mr. Gomez.
Hey,
Um, my name is Alejandro. I go by Alex. Currently, I'm in Anchorage, Alaska. So it's been quite fun dealing with the time zone differences with the cohorts, but I'm
Oh,
making
yeah.
it work. Other than that, I've
What
been
time
a
is it for you
self-taught.
right now?
What
What time
time?
is
It
it?
is 5:42 in the evening, sir.
Okay. Okay. All right.
But my job is out of Indianapolis, so I'm currently working as well, and it is 9:42 there. So I've been kind of used to the time zone differences.
Okay.
The sun isn't up here in Alaska right now, so kind of it's always night kind of thing.
Yeah. So are
But I've
you?
been
Yeah.
so
Go for
happy.
it.
Oh no, sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it. Go for it. Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say that I was so happy to get into New Camp. I've been a self-taught developer for, let's say, probably 10 plus years. I started off with C and then moved over to Python and kind of didn't have any direction. So my Udemy account is full of like 150 some courses that I should be taking. But I wasn't for sure like which direction to go. And then I started looking for boot camps because I felt like I didn't have any feedback. I didn't have any peer support. Everything was all being done by myself. So I felt like the imposter syndrome was really hitting me pretty large. I'm like, I know this,
Mm.
but I don't have any feedback to kind of prove that I know it or kind of have the confidence. So I was looking for boot camps. I came across New Camp and I did some research on the reviews and kind of how New Camp is different from all the other boot camps that are out there. I really loved what I saw about New Camp and I decided to join. When I first joined, it was the front end development that I was going for. And since I've been in New Camp and the instructors and the students, I decided to jump into the full stack.
Oh, you're upgraded. Yeah, pretty cool. So when did you join then?
Be honest with you, I don't recall. I think it was probably December of last year.
Yeah, that's right. That would, yeah, you will be just about. Are you in React Native now? I guess. Are you
We're
studying
in,
Node?
Yes, sir. The second week of React Native actually is
Cool.
closing tonight.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So you were a self-taught, or yeah, you have been a self-taught developer for 10 years. Did you freelance during that time, or did you just learn and then did you keep your day job, I guess? How did you handle that?
Pretty much for me, it's been just taking courses. I've been in the tutorial Hades, as everybody likes to call it. That's pretty much where I was. My current job, I work in the IT field as a specialist. So, and I've held multiple jobs in the IT field for over 20 years now. So, essentially, I've been wanting to move from the IT support role over to development, but I just never really felt like I was ready until
Mm.
taking this boot camp. And to be honest with you, I'm in 3 boot camps. New Camp is one of the 3.
Well, oh, so from self-taught to overachiever.
Well, I mean, at this point, I feel like I'm really ready. What I need is the
That's great.
feedback and the confidence builder. So taking New Camp along with 2 other boot camps, all of the programs seem to be lining up. So really, I'm
Yeah.
being hit with material 3 times. So it's like, if this doesn't stick, then, my brain is fried. Something's wrong,
Yeah.
And it shows. I
But
mean, you've prepared yourself for a good amount of time. So yeah, hopefully you're gonna really make it, and it's all gonna click for you. And do you feel like, so? Let me ask you this: do you feel like you could get another job at your current company since it's already in IT, or how do you think about the future for getting a new job?
Well, I've got 2 different paths before me. My current job is with a software consortium, and so they have been hiring for software developers. And I have
Uh-huh.
put my hat in the ringer, this past module because I felt like I was ready.
Oh, so you're just starting
So
with them? Okay, cool. Yeah.
I've got that pan in the fire. But then also, I'm pretty new here to Anchorage, Alaska. I've been here less than a year, and I've noticed a lot of the businesses here don't have a stellar web presence. And so during my bootstrap project, I chose to go with a local business and give their website a makeover for my project,
Oh, that's
and I
smart.
offered
That's
it
There
to
great.
you
them
go.
for free. And they
There you
ended up
go.
actually liking it. And I was like, well, instead of working for a company, maybe I could just go into business for myself. And, I've got some clientele around here that I could kind of get on board with that. So I've got 2 different paths that I could choose
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
Alex, that's amazing. That's beautiful. That is that is the passion you need to have. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Looking for someone who needs an update on their website without them even asking for it. You both win. Either they like it or they don't. It doesn't really matter. I mean, it does matter. Great if they like it, but it improves your skills. It's beautiful.
That's what I was really going for, and with New Camp, I'm like, oh, if I can do a project for a company, whether they pay me for it or not, which I didn't ask for any payment. I volunteered to give it to them. At the end of the website, it says that it was created by me. So other people that are going there, it's kind of like word of mouth of my own work without actually having to pay for it.
That's awesome. Hey, if it's live, don't hesitate to write it in the private chat, and then I'll post it, and we'll bring traffic to the website. If the website is live, go for it. This is awesome, Alex. Thanks for joining. Did you have a
Sure. Thank
question
you.
for Caesar? Or, I mean, it's already a great story, and I'm really happy that you shared it. But if you had a question for Caesar or myself, please go for it.
No questions. Just enjoying you guys. I
All right.
was watching it from the YouTube channel. I didn't realize that you guys had the rest stream. So when I saw it go in the chat, I was like, oh, let me join real quick.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. That's what it's for. Okay, so and don't hesitate. Yeah, do the private chat if you wanna shout it out, and we'll paste it. All right. So yeah, back to you, Caesar. So
Yeah.
self-taught instructor, and you didn't
Yeah.
stop there. You had one instructor position and another. Like how many different coding bootcamps actually have you taught at?
No, I've only taught at once. They
Okay.
were but they changed the name. So it
Oh,
was
I
a
see.
trilogy, and now it's
Yeah.
2U. Yeah, and
And you
I
were
was,
in person at the time, weren't
yes,
you?
I was in.
Yeah.
I was actually in person the first few months that I got hired on, and then they switched to online. So it just depended like on the roll
Yeah.
call. If they called you up and said you needed to be online, then I would do it online.
So out of curiosity, how did you find New Camp? So yeah, what brought you to New Camp then?
So what brought me to New Camp is I remember being, doing the free code camp stuff, and New Camp was looking for people here,
Oh yeah. Okay.
or in San Bernardino. But the thing, and obviously it's a different story because I'm hired on now, but they were looking for people all over the place.
Oh
So
yeah.
I kind of was like, it's too good to be true. So I never applied. And then I did apply once, and then I completely like I was like, I don't think this is, you know, one, I don't think I had the time, but I don't think this is real, or I don't think it's gonna be what I expect it to be. But I I got contact and I was like, you know what? Let's just, who knows? It might turn out to be really cool. So I did the interview process, and obviously I've stayed on for 2 years. So
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah.
yeah.
So I didn't know that instructors will look at it and think it's too good to be true or not real. I mean, I know it's something that students or customers feel like they're looking at the advertising, they're looking at the price, and they're like, nah, it's too good to be true. It's not real. I
Yeah.
didn't know there was that kind of effect for instructors as well.
It's
Um,
yeah, it's one of those things where you see that posting a lot on Indeed, and
yeah.
they probably expect a lot out of your time. I don't know. I just it was questionable.
So can you describe to us what is it like? And of course, it's not planted. Be honest, be 100% honest. What is it like to be an instructor at New Camp? What's the life of an instructor at New Camp?
um,
And I'm going to
it's
paste Alex's website here.
okay.
I'm going to paste your version, Alex. So the URL that you're seeing right now, that's Alex's website for that business. So yeah, cool. Yeah. So what is it like?
It's one of the things that I don't think a lot of people get to say about their jobs, which makes me super happy about being an instructor. Is it's an amazing experience as soon as you see your students graduate, and that's one of the reasons why, like, learning a new technology, right? You can only imagine, because we're talking about adults here. They are
Yeah.
taking time out of their day, packed with a full-time job, families, other obligations, and it's up to you as an instructor to lead them to a completely new path in life. It's a huge responsibility, and I take pride in that. I take pride that I'm a part of that journey for them.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful experience, and that's also another reason why I think I've stuck around this long. It's not easy for them, and it's an amazing that I get to kind of do a whole 180, be a part of their 180 career change for them.
Are you staying in touch with some students?
Yeah, I've stayed in touch with I've stayed in touch with a few, just because, they either want some advice or they've gotten a job and stuff like that. But yeah, it's not like a back and forth type of relationship, but
Yeah.
I'll ping them on LinkedIn or something.
Sometimes it's not too often, but once in a while, there's going to be an instructor on the instructor channel
Mhm.
sharing with the group, the community of instructors, a message that he or she just received from the students,
Yeah.
thanking the instructor for everything they've done to help the person. And it's, the emotional impact and the power in that is huge. Having someone really reach out to you and say, hey, I think one was saying, I don't know if you remember me or something like that. But since, you taught me this, I got that position. That was very, very powerful. All right. The time goes really fast. We're 7 away from the end of the show, but I was looking at some additional questions, and there we go. I don't know if it's a question but that's Ryan still. That's Ryan that we saw. Oh yeah, commenting on the backend SQL and DevOps with Python course, where we're covering Docker and the 3 cloud platforms. Yeah, and that bootcamp, when we first released it, we had an issue with the last course, and it was really painful for the first cohort.
Yeah.
The team has done tremendous work, and we're looking at the scores right now, but it could actually turn out to be the best course, the one with the 3 clouds that we've actually delivered so far. So big kudos for Mine and the team for turning that around. All right, and Jenna is asking how many weeks in the course. I think the backend one is 17 weeks in total, but there's a week break between modules, so it's a total of 13. We call it 13 instruction week. So 13 weeks where you actually learn, and then there's a week break. All right, let's go back to you, Caesar. So I need to make that joke because you're working at Fleetwood Windows and Doors.
Yeah.
What kind of Windows app are you building over there?
Oh, yeah.
No, but
Yeah.
tell us, sorry, besides the joke, tell us about so what do you do over there? You've been hired fairly recently, actually, full-time for that company. What do you do over there?
So I do some WordPress stuff, maintain that. And then I've also rebuilt their dealer login page, which basically keep tracks of the status of current orders. It was really not as nice as it is now. So
are you cringing every time you go into that WordPress? Are you like, my God, I need to get off WordPress? I mean, how are you actively lobbying to do something else right now, or what is it like?
You have no idea. But you know, at the end of the day, you know, sometimes I do look at it and I'm like, man, just scratching my head. But you got to see the positives and things. I can't, even to this day, the other day, I was taking a walk. I can't believe I'm actually getting paid to do this. I've spent nights up just trying to call myself a web developer. And now, no matter how hard things may be to understand in the code base, it's just, hey, you did it. Yeah.
So let's talk about that. You talk about the code base. There is a stigma around WordPress, right? And I just made a few jokes around it, but it doesn't mean that there isn't a code base. I mean, it's not because it's a WordPress site that all of a sudden it's just drag and drop, right? Can you tell us about, I mean, how much code is involved in maintaining that website, and kind of dispel some myth, I guess, around, you know, WordPress being a kind of an easy environment or whatever?
Yeah, well, you know, to be honest with you, I don't go too deeply into it. The last few months that I've spent there, I've done very minor tweaks as far as like making things fit a container and things like that. Most of my time has been spent in working with the dealer login page. So as much as, like, you know, if they have a question with WordPress, it's fairly maintained very well. They know how to, like you said, drag and drop some images if they need to update it that way. But most of my time right now has been constructing the whole new dealer login portal.
Okay, so you don't have to worry too much about it.
Yeah.
And we only have 2 minutes left, but let me ask you a few things about, you know, that job, and maybe spending a little bit of time on the interview itself. Could you share with us the interview experience? How did it go for you? How did you find the job? Was it networking? Was it just, you know, applying, kind of a blind application online? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it was, I just applied on Indeed. It wasn't really through networking. I think my resume had some of the projects that I built in the past. And again, that was brought up in the interview, much like how I may have spoken today. I was speaking really fast because I was nervous, and I let them know during the interview that I was nervous, just to, you know, because it makes me feel a little bit more calmer if I say it out loud and they know. So I just let them know that. And again, I just showed off my projects, and they were like, wow, I think you've been the best one, you know, that so far. And that's awesome. I was like, wow, that's great. I can't believe it.
And they seem to be, are they local? I mean, right. Do you think that helped, the fact that you applied for the job and you were not going to be remote, you were going to be like local? And
yeah, I think, you know, that's what I was going to bring up. You posted on, and I know we have a few seconds here, but you posted on LinkedIn how you should take like your first developer job.
Yeah.
And the comments were a little bit mixed. I tend to agree with you. I mean, to be able to do it, whether it's a freelance or just get your foot in the door, whatever, I think it really benefited me because I was willing to go in.
Yeah.
I know not a lot of web developers may have been like, I still don't want to go into the office. It's all remote now. It's kind of an old school way of doing it. I didn't care. I just wanted the job.
Yeah. That's a very fair point. And some people will have looked and seen WordPress and they could have said, well, I'm not going to go in there because WordPress. But again, it's actually an opportunity. You have so much work potentially. You could become the hero. And Ryan says WordPress was cool. Yeah. So, hey, we're just on the hour. It went super fast. Really, really thank you, Cesar, for joining us tonight. It's late. But hey, we all have jobs during the day, so I really appreciate that you did that without a glass of wine, which we'll have to fix next time. But yeah, I mean, anything else you want to say before we wrap up? Any last advice for aspiring developers?
No, just keep working hard. I think the person who joined us as a perfect example of just working your butt off, building things that you may not have been asked to build, but it makes you more of an experienced developer. You'll learn new things, and as long as you keep that attitude, I am telling you, you will find that job.
All right. Well, that's very inspiring and encouraging. Thank you very much, Cesar. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And for next week, I think we have another show. It's going to be show number 11. So enjoy the weekend, and we'll talk online, Cesar.
All right, Ludo. See ya.
Take care.
You too.